NBA will be in Oklahoma City next season, playing their games. The transition and the move of this operation and this team begins tomorrow morning from Seattle to Oklahoma City. And it begins with the most important piece of our organization. It begins with our players.
So after 41 years of basketball in Seattle, the Sonics are packing up the trucks and heading to Oklahoma City.
After almost 40 years in Seattle, the NBA chose to move the Supersonics out of the state and far away to Oklahoma City and completely changed the branding to the Oklahoma City Thunder. This was a very big moment in NBA history as it sent one of the biggest and best, most loyal fan bases into purgatory, essentially. They no longer have an NBA team to root for. They no longer had an NBA franchise to root for. And while there have been talks of expansion and, oh, hey, we're going to bring a team back to Seattle, nothing concrete has ever happened. But today, this series is the beginning of a new journey for the fans of Seattle and for anybody who wants to see Seattle succeed as an NBA franchise. They are going to be getting a new franchise known as the Seattle Emeralds, an imitation of the nickname of the city, which is the Emerald City. Seattle will once again be housing an NBA team, and hopefully they will be housing a very successful NBA franchise because, as we know, the last franchise ended up leaving because of lack of monetary success, and while they did have a huge fan base and a loyal fan base, they did not have a lot of success on the court in their most recent years as an NBA franchise. Those are the main reasons that they ended up leaving, and we are going to hopefully be bringing back that success to Seattle that they saw in the 90s with Sean Kemp and Gary Payton. Here's a little look at, I don't think I'll be able to show you our branding just yet because we're going to have to basically move everybody around or, move us, our players around until we actually get a full team for whatever reason they want to edit it this way. We're not sending Memphis to the Eastern Conference. We are actually going to bring Austin over to the Eastern Conference. They're going to play with Atlanta, Miami, Charlotte, and Orlando and Washington in the Southeast. And then we're going to bring Seattle down here to the Southwest Conference. That way they can line up with Oklahoma City. So we'll be playing the Thunder a whole lot in this dynasty, and hopefully it will be a good way for us to get a little bit of exposure. We're going to put Memphis up there just so that it's pretty equal outside of that. And yeah, that's a pretty good balance right there, I would say. We get our first look at the NBA lottery this year. Don't exactly know where the Emeralds will fall. As we see at number 16, the Memphis Grizzlies are going to stay there. The lottery is a... So we're trying to see where we're going to be picking here in this first year. The New York Knicks get 15 via Dallas. And we're just going to go ahead and skip straight through it as the Bullets will be picking 5. And the Emeralds will be selecting number 6 in this year's draft. That is a big start for this franchise as we get our first chance to go out there and bring in our own head coach. Chauncey Billups is an option. We're trying to look for somebody who's not, we're not expecting somebody to come in, be a championship coach immediately. We're not expecting somebody to come in and lead us to the NBA Finals year one. But I won't lie. It would be pretty cool to have Rajon Rondo come in as our head coach. I'd be dumb not to offer him. Let's go ahead and go get our CFO. Not that it really matters. We're going to bring him in. We're going to bring an assistant GM in. We are filling up our staffing ranks and our coaching ranks because we desperately need to have a good first year. There's a lot of foreign scouts, but there's not a lot of head scouts. I'm looking for a head scout if there are any. Is that even a thing in the game anymore? I guess we'll just go with domestic scout. Like who is the best of the best, because Seattle, we've got money. We can pay for everybody to come over here and scout. We're going to bring in him, and then team doctor doesn't really matter too much. We're going to sign all of those people. And Rajon Rondo, welcome to Seattle as the first official head coach in Emeralds basketball history. And here's the look at the draft this year. As we all know, there's a lot of big names in this one. Cooper Flagg is one that comes to mind. Then you've got guys like Nolan Trayor, Amari Bailey, Trey Johnson, VJ Edgecombe. There's a lot of very, very good guys in this draft, and a lot of guys that we are going to be interested in. But before we get into that, we have to go through and look at who we're getting in the expansion draft. Every team gets to protect 10 of their core players, so it can be interesting to see what each team prioritizes. For example, DeAndre Hunter is not a priority, as well as Bogdan Bogdanovic is not a priority for the Atlanta Hawks. They would instead rather protect a guy like Mohamed Gay or David Roddy, etc. Kind of shocking there. Pele Larson doesn't get protected from Miami. Grant Williams, Josh Green. Josh Green would be a really big 3-and-D pickup for the Emeralds here in year one. As we get a look, Malik Monk somehow does not get protected. Okay, he's got to be protected. I sometimes don't like how unrealistic the protection decisions are. I wish you could actually go through and edit them, but we're going to see who all is available for us as the Bullets get Chris Middleton, which Milwaukee somehow does not protect. So Chris Middleton on the move, the 32-year-old, is the first member of the Austin Bullets. That is a crazy decision by Milwaukee not to protect him, and you've got to wonder, are they maybe preparing for a bit of a rebuild period by letting Chris Middleton walk completely out into purgatory, essentially? Now we've got to look and see, who do we want the most? I would love to bring in Malik Monk. I think he would bring a very, very big offensive boost to a young team like this. So I think we'd be wrong not to draft him at 27 years old. He's under contract for 2 years. He's not a superstar, but he's a guy that will be able to count on in those type of moments. And I already saw who I wanted with the second pick. 20 years old, Isaiah Collier didn't play a single minute for the Jazz a year ago. Not the best offensive player, but he shines on defense. A young guy with 71 perimeter and 65 steal, with solid athletic attributes, 90 speed, 80 agility. Solid for a guy that's just 20 years old and has not played a game in the NBA yet. Last year with the Utah Jazz, as the Bullets go on and they grab a couple more veterans. They are trying to looks like they're trying to tool up for a championship run or a playoff run in year one, as we now are going ahead to our third overall pick. We're going to bring in Corey Kispert out of Washington. Corey Kispert's under contract for 4 years. He's a good spot-up shooter. I think having Judge Collier, that's the wrong guy. Isaiah Collier. Judge Collier is a Gamecock player. Having Isaiah Collier alongside Malik Monk and then having a spot-up guy like Corey Kispert would help us out a whole lot. And let's get a look at who all we can look into taking. Deron Holmes is there, 22 years old, out of Dayton, Ohio, playing for them. I think I'm actually going to go with Jalen Williams, though. The 6'10 power forward, the Oklahoma City Thunder have not been giving a lot of playing time. He's a good guy that can stretch the floor, and I don't have the same idea as the Austin Bullets. I am looking for young guys that I think have a lot of potential. I'm looking for young guys that I think can maybe develop, young guys that can potentially become very, very good players on our roster. But I'm also looking for guys that I think will be able to perform at a high level. That's why we're going to bring in Georges Niang, who's on an expiring deal, but he's a lights-out shooter. We're going to use our next pick on a point guard in Jamal Sheed. That's going to be a big position of need, but I'm willing to let the guys work out over that position and fight over that position, as we have a lot of young options here left over. I think I'd be dumb not to go with Johnny Furphy. I mean, Terrence Shannon Jr., don't get me wrong, is really good, but Johnny Furphy's just 20 years old. He's a second-year guy this year. I would be pretty stupid, in my opinion, to not select Johnny Furphy and have him come in and maybe, you know, develop a little bit for us, maybe become a good player for us. That would be best case scenario. But I think that's a lot of wishful thinking, but why not select him and see what he can do? The same thing with City Sissoko. Didn't play a lot of minutes in San Antonio. He averaged 2 points per game on about 8 minutes a game. Nothing crazy. He's not an offensive gauntlet player, but he's a solid defender. And I think on a team like this, when you're rebuilding and you're a new expansion team, you want to be able to establish solid defense. And what better way to do it than with a guy like City Sissoko? The Miami Heat still have Pele Larson on the drafting block. He is 24, though. I think we take Pele Larson. He's got a good 3-ball and a solid defensive mind. He's going to be a solid guy for this team going forward, as we only have a few more rounds coming up as the Bullets are selecting their final few selections here in the expansion draft. And we're getting down to really the final few guys. I think we would be happy with just getting either some young guys or maybe even a guy like Duop Reith, Simon Fontecchio, a guy that maybe come trade deadline we can trade for, or trade to a competing team that can actually, you know, use a guy like him, as we should be getting nearer to our final 2 picks. We're gonna cave in. We're gonna take Maxwell Lewis, and then we are going to take only power forwards left. We're gonna take Oliver Maxence Prosper to round out the draft here. And here's a look at our roster before the 2025 NBA draft. At point guard, we've got Isaiah Collier, Jamal Sheed there. They're going to battle it out for that starting point guard position, potentially, depending on who we bring in free agency. Shooting guard, you've got Malik Monk, Johnny Furphy, and Pele Larson. Pretty solid position there for us. Corey Kispert, City Sissoko, and Maxwell Lewis at small forward as well. Power forward, we are loaded up. I'm actually going to move Adem Bona over to center because he gets slightly better, and I think that we have plenty of power forwards, in my opinion, so we don't need that many power forwards. As you can see, we have Georges Niang, Simon Fontecchio, Jalen Williams, Oliver Maxence Prosper. Might even look into moving Jalen Williams over if he goes up. He does not. He actually goes down a point. So that is our roster going into the official NBA draft. Now, let me make sure I've got my settings correct. I want to make sure that there's actually trades. I want, you know, the trades to happen, but I want to have control over them. Probably, I want to be able to approve them as CPU trade offers are there. I should have trade approval on. I need it on. There we go. Trade approval is on. And let's just jump right into the draft. This team is drafting 6. We're going to be behind the Bullets. I wouldn't mind potentially trading into the lottery again, but we've got to see how the puzzle pieces fall into place as we are now ready for the 2025 NBA draft. The San Antonio Spurs with Wemby are stepping up to the clock. Will they select a point guard to pair alongside Wemby? With the first pick in the 2025 NBA draft, the Spurs are going to select Cooper Flagg, the 6'9" small forward out of Duke. Flagg was the biggest prospect coming into the year, and while he had a bit of a down year for the Duke Blue Devils, he showcased his athleticism, his scoring ability, and his defensive skills, averaging 3.5 blocks per game, almost 4 blocks a game last season at Duke. So now that Flagg's off the board, we're going to see Sacramento step up to the clock. The Kings made the big trade midseason to get rid of De'Aaron Fox in return for Fred VanVleet and a couple young prospects. So who will they replace De'Aaron Fox with? They're going to replace him with arguably the second best player in the draft, 6'6" Dylan Harper out of Rutgers. Harper is just one of those very high IQ NBA players that seems to be very ready for the NBA and does not seem to make a lot of mistakes. So look forward to him being the offensive focal point for the Sacramento Kings as we step now to number 3. Miami traded away Jimmy Butler, went into a bit of a rebuilding period. They are at number 3 in the draft. Who will they select? And they reach a little bit. They are looking for their point guard of the future with Igor Demine out of BYU, 6'9" point guard, one of the tallest guards in the NBA draft this year. He averaged almost 15 assists a game at BYU last season. He is arguably the best playmaker in the entire draft, and the Nets step up now. This one is flying by with the 4th pick in the 2025 NBA draft. The Brooklyn Nets select Jeremiah Fears, the 6'3" point guard out of Oklahoma. Fears is a very, very solid defender at the point guard position. He's a good guy at getting in the lanes and forcing turnovers, but in my opinion, that may have been a major reach. Now, don't get me wrong, he's 18 years old, he's a 76 overall, but there is someone still on the board that is shocking right now. Because Ace Bailey is still on the board. Ace Bailey, VJ Edgecombe, another top prospect, is still on the board. Ace Bailey was projected to go second overall in 2 out of the 3 draft projections. Let's see who the Bullets take. If the Bullets do not take Ace Bailey, the Emeralds will have a very simple choice in this first draft. The Austin Bullets step up to the podium with the 5th pick in the 2025 NBA draft. The Austin Bullets select VJ Edgecombe, the 6'6" shooting guard out of Baylor, 188 pounds. Edgecombe has a pleasure to watch on an NBA court, or he will be in the future. He is a very high potential, very high upside prospect that is very, very solid already. Edgecombe comes in at a 76 overall, 18-year-old, and a two-way rim attacker. And that leaves the Seattle Emeralds with the first pick in Emeralds history. We're stepping up to the podium. We're not overthinking it. We're not making any big deal out of it. The 6th pick in the 2025 NBA draft, the Seattle Emeralds select shooting guard Ace Bailey out of Rutgers, 6'9", potentially one of the best players in the draft. Bailey played alongside his teammate who got drafted much earlier than him, Dylan Harper, earlier in the draft at Rutgers. The two were a very, very highly touted tandem at Rutgers, and they just played at a very, very high level. The Emeralds, I think, I'm not biased, obviously, have gotten a very good player in Ace Bailey. Ace Bailey is arguably one of the top 2 guys in this draft. You could even argue he is number 1 over Cooper Flagg. That one was a really, really big draft for the Emeralds to start their dynasty. As we now get into the later picks of the lottery, I'm going to fly through these ones a little bit quicker. 7th overall, the Illinois native Will Riley gets selected, the 6'9" shooting guard. The Wizards trying to get out of purgatory. The Wizards saw a lot of Riley when he was leading the all shooting guards at the combine in 15-foot jump shots, so he can kind of play alongside Jordan Poole and have a reliable jumper. The Rockets at number 8 are going to select Noah Esingwe out of France, the 8th pick, with the Rockets being competitive this year, but still having a very high draft pick. They're able to bring in Esingwe, and they're going to look to not rebuild. They're going to look to reload as they want to get back to the playoffs again. Esingwe obviously didn't go the college route. He has played overseas most of his life. Rockets are going to look to plug him into the lineup and play seamlessly in their first year, or in his first year in the NBA. The Raptors step up at number 9. They're going to select Kadeem Malik, 7'2" center out of Duke. The Raptors need a lot of help, but that's going to start them in the right direction. One of the best rebounders in all of college basketball last season at Duke. Kadeem Malik heading north to Toronto. Number 10, the Detroit Pistons are going to select. They are actually going to trade the pick. The Pistons giving the pick to the Rockets. In return, they're going to get next year's Nets pick in a 2029 first round from Dallas. So the Rockets looking to get into the first round again. That one not a major trade. The Pistons think they have a good roster right now and maybe want to save a little bit of money to work with in free agency. So let's see where the Rockets go with this. They bring in Boogie Flan, the 6'2" point guard out of Arkansas. A confusing selection for Houston, in my opinion, considering they have Reed Shepherd and De'Aaron Fox, but maybe they just loved what they saw out of Boogie Flan. And the logjam continues to grow in Houston. Flan looks like a very good player, and perhaps, as Lang Whitaker says, a contingency plan if De'Aaron Fox chooses to enter free agency next season, as the Thunder have a couple picks here to round out the lottery. They have 11 and 14 coming up in a few picks. At 11, Thunder are going to trade the pick to Oklahoma City, Oklahoma City is going to trade the pick to Charlotte, giving up the 2025 first Clippers pick that they have right now, a 2026 first Clippers pick that they have right now. In return, the Thunder are going to get Miles Bridges and Josh Green. So the Hornets making a move here in the draft to get number 12 or number 11, as they will also pick here in a few spots as well. They're going to step up and take Asa Newell out of Georgia, the 6'11" power forward. Newell is going to be 75 overall to start his career and he is known as an inside the arc shot creator. So they move on for Miles Bridges after all of his controversy, and Newell is going to come in and potentially play very well for Charlotte, but we'll see if they can develop, because Charlotte has been in purgatory for some time now, as the Trailblazers are going to step up to the podium at number 12 and select Trey Johnson. Don't know how he fell that far, but Trey Johnson is the newest member of Portland. A walking bucket is his archetype. Trey Johnson, I mean, you cannot say that you messed up if you draft a guy that is counted as a walking bucket. That's got to be worth something. As the Hornets now step up at number 13, their second pick, and two attempts, as they this time take a shooting guard in Dink Pate, the 6'8 shooting guard that did not actually play college. He is one of the newest high school prospects. 71 overall, a bit of a reach potentially, but looks like he's going to be a solid player for Charlotte, backing up Trey Mann and Brandon Miller at the shooting guard position. The Thunder now have another pick. They're going to make a big trade. The Kings blowing it up for DeMar DeRozan and Devin Carter, shipping them away to Oklahoma City, as the Kings get this pick and a 2026 first-round pick from Miami next year. So the Thunder building what is possibly going to be the most impressive super team in NBA history if they can make this work. Conrad Knuppel is who the Kings go with, the 6'7 lights-out shooter out of Duke. He is possibly the best shooter in the entire draft. As the Knicks now step up, they are going to also trade it away. The Suns trying to maybe get a little younger as they see the writing on the wall with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, Tobias Harris and Grayson Allen, who they just traded for. Tobias Harris at the trade deadline, going to be shipped to New York. In return, they will get the 15th overall pick and a second-round pick next year. As this draft continues to be more and more interesting, the Suns step up and use that to select JT Toppin out of Mexico, or New Mexico, I should say. 6'9", 72 overall power forward, is a all-around versatile defender. We'll see how that pick or how that trade ends up for Phoenix, because that was a very interesting move. But with 36-year-old Kevin Durant only getting older, JT Toppin is probably going to be the guy that takes his place once he ends his career. As the Grizzlies are here to end the 16th pick and in the lottery, the Grizzlies are going to step up to the podium, and they will trade for Jonas Valanciunas. They're going to bring Jonas Valanciunas back to the Grizz and Rashawn Holmes. And in return, they're going to give the Wizards that pick. The Wizards getting another lottery selection. This time, they're going to select Nolan Treyer, the 6'4 guard out of France. And that will wrap up the NBA lottery. That was a very exciting lottery, I must add, as we are getting some trade offers for this second-round pick. I'm not really interested in anybody. John Broome, maybe, no. Sam Thomas, no. I'm good. We are just going to look and see who is potentially the best guy available. Jaleel Bethea is there. He's ranked probably overall-wise the best player left in the draft. Why not go after him? Miami, Florida native Jaleel Bethea. And that will be the end of this first 2025 NBA draft. Here's a look at where everybody ended up going. Can't believe Ace Bailey fell to us. But it was a very exciting lottery. Out of the lottery, we saw the Jazz select another guard, Kaspar Jankunas. The Hawks select Liam McNeely. Hugo Gonzalez goes to Utah as well. LeBron Philon goes to San Antonio. So maybe the point guard of the future there behind Steph Castle. And they also selected a guy back-to-back, Alex Karabin, out of Connecticut. So UConn to play small forward. Derek Queen is there. Rocky Sasaki. Colin Murray-Boyles goes to Brooklyn. Ben Seraph goes to Boston. Jaren Stevenson to the Clippers. Drake Powell to the Pelicans. Mikey Williams, the former Phenom, goes to Brooklyn as well. Donnie Freeman to Brooklyn. They had a lot of late first-round picks. Ian Jackson to Golden State. Jovan Sannon to Orlando. And finally, Nicholas Clifford goes to the Oklahoma City Thunder. As we now... I'm going to go through every team and make sure that they're not signing too many rookies. Make sure that they're not signing anybody that they don't need to sign. Sometimes rosters get a little bit of... what's the word? traffic jammed because teams don't understand who they should and who they shouldn't sign. Because, like, if you're Oklahoma City, you just made all those big trades. You don't need to sign a 65 overall late second-round pick. I'm just going to go through, make sure everybody signs exactly who they should sign, and then we'll get into the free agency period. Made sure all the rookies went to the teams that they should, and all the players that should have got their options picked up got their options picked up. And here's where free agency stands. LeBron James is the #1 guy on the board. Probably going to be going back to Los Angeles. Charlotte just throwing a hook out there and hoping they catch something with LeBron. Sorry, Charlotte, LeBron is not going to be playing for you next year. The Clippers look like the main team that's going to be bringing James Harden back. Brandon Ingram looks like he'll be returning to New Orleans on a 4-year, $100 million deal. Fred VanVleet, the Kings let him walk, so the Suns looking to bring in Fred VanVleet with that extra money they had after the Tobias Harris trade in the offseason. The Miles Turner is looking to return to Indiana. Brook Lopez is looking like he is going to be playing maybe for the Utah Jazz next year, but if I have something to say about that, I'm going to try my best to get Brook Lopez here in Seattle. I think that'd be a really fun thing to do here in year one. And while we might not be big players and we do not have a lot of room on the roster, it should be interesting to see if we can compete with this current roster we have. As you can see, Brook Lopez ready to accept our contract offer, 2 years, $20 million. At 36 years old, looks like he's going to be probably our only player we sign this offseason, as right now we have 7, right at 16 players, so we don't even have room on the roster yet to sign anybody else. LeBron, as mentioned, here's everybody. Let's see if anybody changes. Brook Lopez, obviously, to Seattle. Alex Caruso playing for New York now. Cam Thomas goes to the Thunder, who somehow have money left. I mean, they're not going to be able to sign everybody next season. I hope they know that when some of their guys start expiring contracts. Malcolm Brogdon, that's a good pickup for the Timberwolves to replace Mike Conley, or at least start over an old Mike Conley if he's still there. Bruce Brown to Cleveland. Bojan Bogdanovic to Cleveland. Clint Capella to Orlando. Josh Giddey to the Nets. Karis LeVert to the Nuggets. Big offseason. A lot of moves in the offseason. Malik Beasley finds his way back to Denver. Marvin Bagley the third finds his way to Golden State. Very, very, very hectic offseason, as we'll now get a chance to look at let's see where everybody went. Final signings happen, and that is where we stand. As far as our roster goes, Corey Kispert gets a little bit better. Brook Lopez, as expected, gets slightly worse, but I wanted a better center than Goga Badatsi. We are going to have to cut somebody. Unfortunately for us, I think that is going to end up being Maxwell Lewis. He just has the least potential out of all the guys left on the roster. Summer leagues are going to come and go. The rest of this is going to come and go. And I will be making a customized draft class for these seasons going forward. So if you're interested in having your name in the draft class, go ahead and drop in the comments down below your name, position, height, and if you want to, drop strengths, weaknesses, etc. If you don't, I'll make it up in my own head, and that is how we will effectively get our draft classes going forward for this MyNBA. And here's a look at the starting lineup for our first season in Seattle. Isaiah Collier at the point guard position, the second-year guy. Didn't play at all last year. He's going to be playing a lot this year. Ace Bailey at the 2 guard. Maybe going to change that number. I think I like 3 maybe better than 4. Corey Kispert, Jalen Williams, and Brook Lopez. Off the bench, we've got Malik Monk, Simon Fontecchio, Goga Badatsi, Georges Niang, Johnny Furphy, Adem Bona, Sidi Sissoko, Pele Larson, Jamal Shed, and Jaleel Bethea. So a lot of guys on this team that I think have a lot of potential. A lot of guys on this team that I think can play a good role going forward into this dynasty. As I figured, I'd go ahead and give you guys a quick look at the home, away, and alternate uniforms. It was just something quick that I came up with. Our main colors are green, navy, and white. So our jerseys are a bit of a faded white when we're playing at home, and then our numbers line up with that Seattle across the top. Then we have our away jerseys, which are our emerald green with the navy accent marks and the white accent marks. And then our alternates are navy with white fading at the bottoms and green accent marks around the edges. That is how our uniforms look. And I'll give you a quick look at our stadium as well. I designed all this myself. I won't pretend and say that I'm like some expert designer, but this is what our arena looks like. I wanted to add an arena name, but I couldn't find a way to get my image to actually upload. Some of my images that uploaded to 2K worked, and some that I uploaded didn't. But this is what the stadium or the arena looks like here in the Rain City Coliseum, because Seattle is most famous for their rainy weather. And that is our team hashtag right there. Hashtag Rise to Shine, this Seattle Emerald slogan. And if you are excited for this MyNBA series, if you're excited for this long-term Dynasty series, drop in the comments, hashtag Rise to Shine. As next episode will open up the year in our first ever game, and also coincidentally, our first ever NBA Cup game against the Dallas Mavericks. That will be a lot of fun, but that won't happen until next episode. Let's see if we can hit at least 200 views on this, and a couple of likes would be nice as well. If you are excited, as I mentioned, comment down below, hashtag Rise to Shine. The Seattle Emeralds are here, and they are here to stay. Thank you all for watching me here in this introduction episode. I know it's a bit of a long one, but I had a lot of fun getting that draft going and all those trades going, so thank you all for checking this out. I'll see you all next episode.
Sounds right.